Ladies and gentlemen, I call the January 18th special meeting of the Powhatan County Board of Supervisors to order. Mr. Voorhees, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? And Ms. Cabell, would you lead us in the invocation, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As we gather, let us be mindful of our many blessings. Please guide us in governing amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times. Please instill in us a sense of the welfare and true needs of our citizens, and please grant us the ability to work together in harmony. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. This meeting is about the comprehensive plan. For those of you who may be here to speak about the apartments, this meeting is not about the apartments. This is a special meeting. It's a workshop around the comprehensive plan. However, if you're here and you're here about the apartments and you still wish to speak, you can still speak at the first public comment period. Gentlemen and lady of the board, these meetings are going to be designated as workshops from here on. So you'll see a simplified agenda, and the dress code is informal as you choose. One final thing before we go into the agenda itself. We have an acknowledgement card from Susan Ford, our former Commissioner of the Revenue, thanking us for our condolences as a community and as a board for the loss of her husband. I just wanted to pass that on to you. Are there requests to postpone agenda items or make additions or deletions to the order of the agenda as presented by the County Administrator? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve it as presented.
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So be it. Thank you. We're on agenda item number 6. This is our first public comment period, the first of 2. We are pleased to hear the thoughts of our public on the matters and issues that are germane to county business. Obviously, this is not a forum for criticism of any specific individual or attacks on any person or on any group. It is also not the forum for political campaigning or promoting a business. Please keep your comments focused on the issues and the subject matter over which this board has responsibility, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Please sign in so we have your name and address for the record. Public comment period's open. Mr. Carver?
Good evening. My name is Jim Carver. I live at 4245 Steger Creek Drive. Thanks for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm speaking in opposition of the planned motel at Route 60 and 522. I don't plan to repeat all the reasons that I've shared previously, but I wanted to share a new concern I have. That concern is that I've not heard any updates recently, and my experience in life tells me that means something's going on, which could be good or bad. I'm not sure. So I just, the last update I had heard was that the developer, I believe, was pushing their rezoning request into the March timeframe, I believe, to work on some issues or concerns that had arisen. I'm not sure. But I also suspect there might be another reason that the developer may be, or may have decided to go ahead and move forward on their project without a rezoning request, using, I think, the by right privilege that they've addressed. If that's the case, well, 2 things. I'd like to, not this evening, but at some point, I think I'd like to find out what the status of that is. And number 2, if the developers decided to move forward on their own, using the by right privilege that they believe they have, I think that would be very unfortunate. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Carver. Anyone else wishing to address the board on any issue?
Gentlemen and ladies, thank you for the opportunity. I'll be very brief.
Name, please.
My name, is Steve Mulhern, 2677 Liberty Hill Road. I'm speaking specifically about the comprehensive plan, and my concern and the concern of many, many, many folks that I've spoken to. Unfortunately, most folks in the county do not understand what actually the impact of this comprehensive plan will be on the county, what it will mean financially, what it will mean to quality of life. We citizens do not want high-density housing in the county, be it apartments, subsidized or otherwise. We don't want condos. Personally, I don't have an issue with the high density, if you wish to call it that, such as Scottsville, where we have retirees, et cetera, in a village setting. But I'm very concerned about the motions or the proposals to change current zoning into the village center designation and allowing for high density. Our schools can't handle them, our roads can't handle them. We, as a community, and I think you're bound to find this out as time goes along, we do not want high density in this county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mulhern. Anyone else who wishes to address the board?
You want me to sign in first?
Either before or after, one way or the other.
Okay.
Mr. Mulhern, I'd like you to sign in too when you get a chance.
He
Oh,
did.
thank you.
My name is Myrna Barr, and I live at 3530 Sherwood Buff Way. I wanted to concur with Mr. Mulhern about my concern, as well as my concern as people in my neighborhood, regarding roads and maintenance of roads, the schools. They'll be overcrowded with the proposed comprehensive plan. And I think back also, I'm from Northern Virginia. I saw the sprawl in Northern Virginia. I don't have to tell you, I grew up there in Falls Church. It's crazy, and you know, I'm concerned that Powhatan will head in that direction, because Powhatan reminds me a lot of what Northern Virginia Falls Church was when I was growing up. And I see Walmart, the specifics that you gave to Walmart, or that board at the time, to Walmart architecturally and everything else. If you're going to do a comprehensive plan, think about that also, that we want our county to be a small community. We don't need all these luxury high condos and just the sprawl that's happened in Northern Virginia. We really need smart growth in this county, and I think that's why you've been elected, is because of that. And so I just want you to think about that as you're doing this. You've given architectural provisions before. I personally am against the Section 8 and the luxury condos, unless there's something that done with taste in this county to kind of meet the architecture and the needs of this county, and even the acreage moratorium of this county. So think about that as you're moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barr.
Good evening. My name is Chuck Carlisle, 2246 Old Church Road. And I'm here as part of my family. We moved to Powhatan just recently, but we moved out here for the same reason a lot of other folks did, to get out of the congestion of Chesterfield. So we would be very directly affected by the proposed apartments. My brother-in-law and my father and I have written letters to a number of you, if not all, relaying that sentiment. We also elected, when we purchased a little over 260 acres, we were approached by a number of different developers, which my father and I both do professionally, develop raw land. We were approached by other developers and builders for the section on Old Church Road to divide up into housing, right at the intersection of Carter Gallery and Old Church, where we elected to put in 6 single-family homes as opposed to 50 or 60, which we got asked to do. So we are grateful to be here in Powhatan, but we also came to Powhatan for the same reason a lot of other folks did, which is that rural residential lifestyle. That type of a product and project that we've seen come to Chesterfield, it doesn't ever end well, and it sure doesn't end up the way that it was displayed in that public meeting. So please consider that. Obviously, being in real estate and development, we are very pro-growth, but smart growth. Very well thought out, and that blends well with the county. And this would end up being like a wart. I just don't believe that it's going to bring not only the type of families that you're looking for as taxpayers in Powhatan County, but it's certainly not going to bring the type of real estate and benefits that we believe could happen. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Carlisle. Anyone further wishes? Then I close the first.
Hello,
Hi.
Rebecca Boffman, 2364 Jude's Ferry Road, Powhatan. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. A lot of these items that are within the 2017, I guess, overview agenda are news to me. They're relatively new to my knowledge. My husband and I moved out here 2 years ago from the city of Richmond, you know, with very deliberate reasons behind that move. You know, we wanted to move to a good, tight-knit, small, rural community, but we also knew that development is inevitable. We know this, okay? Look at Short Pump 30 years ago, 20 years ago. It's going to happen. I'll keep this brief, but you know, really what it comes down to is that I'm having a hard time understanding how specifically apartments, such as the subsidized housing, is going to benefit our community in any way, shape, or form. I wish my husband was here. I think he's stuck in traffic, but he has a lot of knowledge and has worked with subsidized housing in depth, and he can speak very deeply to the negative impact on a community that will have, not can, not may, will have. And this proposed subsidized housing across from my children's daycare is a mile down the road from us. So, you know, it's you know, again, I've heard the term wart, but I really do believe that it would be very, very negative for the community. And I don't know of anybody that I've spoken to that feels any differently about that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hoffman.
Good evening. Bob Sanner, 2032 Valley Springs Court. Congratulations on the new appointments or elections for Mr. Tucker. Ms. Cabell or Cabell, I'm not sure how you'd say that. I am speaking in opposition to any of the proposals in the development plan, most particularly any of those that would provide or allow for a dramatic change in the makeup of Powhatan. I don't know how some of you feel about Powhatan. I moved here 8 years ago, and I am amazed at how I fell in love with Powhatan. I think some have been here too long. They're not as in love with it as they were earlier. I am very fearful of the changes that are about to come. We have an awesome sheriff sitting over here. He does a phenomenal job, all of them do. I would hate to see him be put in a position that some of the sheriffs are in other parts of our community, not our community, on the other side of Richmond, where they need to deal with communities that have come undone because of the nature of the community. You have an awesome community here. You really need to protect it. I don't know whether a referendum is what is called for, but I would believe, and I might be mistaken, and if I am, I would publicly come up here and apologize. I would believe that if you had some type of a referendum and people in this county got a chance to vote on it, you would not get a very strong vote to allow for the kind of proposals that I find here. My biggest concern is that I elected Mr. David Williams and myself and a lot of others, and we truly believe that he represents our values. Sometimes I think you guys lose the contact with us. No one bothered to ask me what I thought about this. I didn't even receive any emails or any letters saying, Bob, what do you think about these places being built? Fortunately for me, I am of an age where I may not live long enough to see the damage that's going to occur if you allow this to happen. If I do live that long, Florida beckons, and it becomes more desirable every January. So I would certainly hope that you will be very sensitive to those of us who live and love Powhatan and do not wish it to become anything other than it is. And I don't even mind the taxes that are on my property, because I came from what was called the Free State, which is now called the Fee State, and so the taxes here are nothing. And I'll pay them, and you can increase my taxes if you'll keep those things out of here.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. Brett Mortino, Hancock Road. I have some concerns with the new proposal for the commercial district, commerce district, I think they're calling it. They're going on the 60 corridor where now I believe it's 200 feet. The first 200 feet is residential commercial, and that's all lined up to be changed to Commerce Center, I believe it is, and increased to 400 feet. I don't understand really the reasoning behind it. I know Powhatan's trying to generate some new business growth, and I mean, we've got multiple rentals available, land for sale, raw land, developed property. All this is already in place. It's not being utilized. So if we increase the amount of unutilized space for commercial, is that going to stimulate more commercial? I don't understand the reasoning behind why we would increase something that's already not working. You know, maybe it'll generate some extra tax dollars by increasing the taxes on that amount of property, but if it's not working, I just don't really see where that is going to increase business. It might increase, you know, maybe manufacturing, Allied Chemical, or, you know, Philip Morris or somebody like that that might look at a big chunk of property. But even at that, you know, there's some technology maybe, but I don't know that Powhatan really has people that are out courting these large businesses or manufacturing facilities to prompt them to move to Powhatan County. You know, I feel like Henrico, Chesterfield, you know, some of these other counties have somebody that's trying to sell their county to big business. But by increasing our amount of commercial property, I don't really see where that's going to entice anybody to come out here to, you know, to open up their shop. Maybe if we had some incentives for them, you know, I don't know, some tax breaks for them, or whatever the case may be. I don't know what Henrico or Chesterfield, any of these other counties, I know they offer stuff up for businesses to move there, whether it was Motorola or whoever it was. They throw them a bone every now and then to try to get them to come to their location and employ people in their county. But I guess just by increasing the the boundaries, I don't see where that's doing much for us, other than restricting the small guy that owns a little piece of property. You know, they want 30 acres to be developed into commercial. It's not very realistic when you look at the number of 1 acre to 10, 12, 15 acre parcels up and down the corridor. You know, there's a handful. I'm out. But anyway, thank you for the time.
Thank you, Mr. Martino.
I'm Scott Strauss, 2662 Red Lane Road. I was at the meeting last night, listening to some of the proposals they were making. In addition to what Mr. Martino was saying, some of these new proposals are going to put some of the businesses that are here in peril of having to close. I've heard that the banks are no longer going to be able to have drive-throughs. They're going to change the tire. No business is going to be able to put tires on. These businesses are already in Powhatan. They're talking about them having to get CUPs to continue doing business. That's going to be difficult enough for them, but I don't think anybody that wants to open up a business like that is going to go through that rigmarole when they come out here. We tried to get two businesses. One was a distillery, and one was Commonwealth Curb Appeal. Commonwealth Curb Appeal is now in Chesterfield County, just over the line, and the other distillery is now in Hanover County. They came to the county to try to get their businesses here, and they faced a fierce wall of resistance. There was no help. The only thing they were told was what they couldn't do. But nobody ever came to them and said, well, let me help you. Let me tell you what you can do. I think until that attitude has changed, you're going to find it really difficult to court any businesses to come out here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cloud. Anyone else wish to address the board?
Mr. Chairman, I have a thought before we continue, please.
Surely.
I suggest that when people hear the bell, that doesn't mean that they're cut off in mid-sentence and they feel like they have to run away from the podium and sit down. We don't want them to be cut off in mid-thought, is what I'm saying. And now the bell has been muted, is that correct? Okay. Thank you. That was my point.
Thank you, Mr. Nordvig.
Good evening. My name, my name is Robert Royal. I reside in District 2 at 1037 Dorset Road. I come here tonight just to be on the record, and I like to be heard. This week I've learned this county has requested Delegate Ware to put a bill in to the General Assembly which would grant mandatory connection to public water and sewer throughout the entire county. I've had conversations this week with several of the supervisors and a conversation yesterday with Delegate Ware. We are waiting to hear what the position of this county is in regard to Senate Bill 22. My concerns with this bill, that any landowner that wants to develop their property where there is an existing or future public water supply line or sewer line would have to connect to grant that development if this passes into law. To me, this is a direct taking what the Constitution gives each and every one of us landowners. It's the bundle of property rights we have to utilize the resources in our land to best support our homesteads and our families. It's a fundamental principle of having the right to choose between a private individual water well or septic tank and drain field system, or connect to a governmentally or anyone else supplied public utility. It also, in my opinion, creates a monopoly. If you take away the right for the citizen to choose, then they only have one choice, and then they lose their voice in an economic trade. Tonight, I urge the county to reconsider Senate Bill 22 and withdraw it for the year or let it pass by, and then to come back out and seek with the Virginia Water Well Association, the Septic Tank Association of Virginia, and other stakeholders such as the landowners in Powhatan County, that we can come together with a reasonable resolution to help this county fund their existing water and sewer utilities and the progression of these as they go into the future. I think that's the fair thing to do. Reaching out has not occurred by this Board of Supervisors or our administrator, and I would like to see that happen and the dialogue begin. I want to thank each and every one of you for working with me this week, but I am still waiting to hear the position of Powhatan County and the deposition of Senate Bill 22 that Delegate Ware has at the General Assembly. I thank each and every one of y'all for being here tonight and look forward to continued dialogue and your leadership for our citizens. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Royal.
My name's Brad Boffman from 2364 Jutes Ferry Road. I'm speaking on behalf of the Section 8 or subsidized housing project proposal next to the high school by Kids A Lot Daycare, where my kids go to school. My perspective is a little bit different. I work for an insurance company here in Richmond that specializes in high-risk commercial properties and businesses, and one of which is this type of housing. And throughout my day, my team, we research these properties, we look at every aspect of them, and they're extremely high risk, high risk of violent crime, sexual assaults, robberies, you name it. They bring down the property values eventually of the localities. They drive people away and invite a lot of bad elements of society. So I see this on a daily basis all across the country. And when I heard this proposal was being made, it was obviously very concerning. We want to keep Powhatan the way it is, and if we want to grow, make it strong, positive growth, not desperate growth, which what this seems like. So anyway, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. Jeff Frazier, 3237 Sherwood Bluff Circle. Basically, just generally, I like to share with you all the feelings that I have personally concerning the type of growth that we're talking about in Powhatan. Like many others here, and probably many like yourself, we came to the county to get away from the density, the put your arm out and touch your neighbor's house type situation that it resides in Chesterfield. The traffic, the forever take trip to get to the grocery store. Powhatan was our relief from that. And to hear how we're looking at putting in this high density type housing, apartments, condos, zero lot line, that kind of stuff is very disturbing. It's not what we came out here for. And I believe a lot of people in the county feel the same way. So just wanted to share with you those feelings. And hopefully the growth that we can get in the county is the smart growth that that one gentleman said. I think that's a good word for it. There is a way to grow. It may not be the fastest way, but it's a way that allows the county to adapt and be able to adjust to this type of growth without having to all of a sudden deal with additional crime, traffic, road situations, all the, the school district, all of the things that can happen when all of a sudden you put up 200 units out of the blue. So just wanted to share that with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frazier.
Good evening. My name is Carol Bowling, and I live on Liberty Hill Road. I just wanted to voice my concern in reference to the comprehensive plan and public safety. I'm interested in having an impact study done on public safety as far as EMS response time, the fire department response time, and even the sheriff department response time. Concerned about that simply because my husband witnessed an accident off Robius Road. It was a head-on collision due to a deer. The response time for that was over 30 minutes. Usually the average response time is 6 minutes. So this 18-year-old boy sat in a car for 30 minutes with his legs pinned in pure agony before he could get a response. The car could have caught on fire. I'm just wondering how this is going to impact when we grow our county like this. How is it going to impact the response time of the emergency services? Has there been a study? I want to be proactive instead of reactive to a situation of growth. I agree with everybody here, and I'm so glad that the people that came or made it. I think that you would hear a lot more comments if we didn't have the snow situation and the weather situation and the time at 6 o'clock instead of 7. Hopefully, we'll have more opportunities to talk, and you guys will hear more from more residents in Powhatan, because I know this is a big issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bowling.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Julie Rutke, and I live at 2985 Eliok Manor Drive. I'm basically here today, and I'll give you a little history of how I ended up in Powhatan County. I moved from the Chesterfield area in the year 2000 because I was, touching the neighbors, and I wanted a little space, and I wanted the community feel. I lived here for 4 years, and my husband, we were transferred to the state of Ohio for 8. Those 8 years, I begged my husband to come back to Powhatan County because I loved the community. I loved the feel. It's just like nowhere I have ever lived before. I'm very passionate about our community. And just so you can kind of understand, not only have I lived in Chesterfield and the West End, I've lived in 6 different states. I've lived in Detroit metropolitan area, Columbus, Las Vegas. Never in my life, in those 6 states, have I lived in a community like this, and I'm very passionate about it. And I wanted my children to be raised here, and that's how I got my husband to move back. The communities I all lived in were wonderful, but they just didn't have the feel like Powhatan County. I love it. Everything about it. I love the people, the citizens, and everyone I've talked to lives here for that reason. That's why we're here. So obviously the comprehensive plan is a concern of mine, and putting multiple apartment complex units. The schools are going to be overcrowded. The traffic is going to be terrible. And it's going to take away why I chose to move 9 hours back here for this community. The other issue is I also have in the past been in the mental health case management. So for a county in the area, and counties require a lot of resources. The more people you move in, the more resources they will need. And that's from experience being a mental health case manager for people with long-term mental illness. The resources have to be there. The police force, they're going to be dealing with a lot more, and they're going to need support. The firefighters, the roads are going to be deteriorating. The schools are going to be deteriorating. There's nothing good, I feel, for bringing growth like that here. And I would love to continue to keep Powhatan the way it is, with good growth that will benefit the county and everyone who moved here for this reason. And I'm well connected in the community. I talk to a lot of people, and I haven't come across one person who is very excited about apartment complex and units coming to our area. That's not why we came here. Otherwise, people will move back. Well, I live out here and drive an hour to this, it takes me 35 minutes to get to the city. Well, now it's gonna take me a lot longer now. So that's why I moved out here. I can live this lifestyle. So basically, that's why I'm here. Is I'm a very strong advocate of looking at this comprehensive plan a little bit more closely, and I appreciate your time today, this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Eleanor Hertzler. I'm at 3499 Richards Run. I just would like to be on the record that I am not in favor at all of apartments, subsidized housing, or the motel. The motel is very alarming where the proposed location could be. I have 3 children. I've chose to reside in Powhatan and raise my children, and I want it to continue to be what we all love about Powhatan County. And when I was raised here and decided to, have my family here, it's just our roots, and it's very scary to see some of the, the things that are being proposed. Also, I do feel that the community, there's a lot of confusion. It's very unclear as to certain things that are happening and what's true and what's false. So I do feel that there may need to be more public awareness possibly, or, trying to skim out what is true and what's not true, because we can all assume. And when we do hear negative things, a lot of people can jump on that bandwagon. So I'm not sure of a resolution to that, but I think if there are clear decisions that have been made or that will be made, it would be great if the public could have a little bit more information. So I appreciate you listening to me this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Herzog. Anyone else wish to address the board? Mr. Hall?
Apologize for stepping in late.
We're just glad you're here.
Open comment period.
Yes, sir.
My name is Mike Hall from 1746 Old Powhatan Estates. I merely want to just make a comment about the comprehensive plan. I think the comprehensive plan is a valid, honorable thing to do that we have to have. But I believe it is always a working draft, and it needs to be really looked at and truly vetted before it's voted on to be established as the next step forward. Looking at the plan a couple months back at the library, there were a couple of things that I noticed, specifically in our district, District 1, where I believe some of the markings, some of the boundaries are rather arbitrary for selection purposes. I don't see any rhyme or reason for some of the selection for the borders. The sections that are being proposed to be changed that incorporate Page Road are being opened up for economic development as opposed to residential. I would challenge anybody who drives or lives in the area of District 1 that Page Road certainly cannot sustain the way it is now, sustain more than residential traffic. Page Road is a very, very windy, narrow, curvy road, and to have it arbitrarily selected for economic development does not make any sense without the comprehensive plan looking at enhancements to Page Road. I'm not a proponent of enhancing Page Road. I think us residents that live on or off of Page Road appreciate the fact that it is a residential community that we have, and all of us residents and our neighbors, and we know each other. We don't want to see anything happening to Page Road that would change the current footprint. So I would urge this board to reconsider the comprehensive plan as designed right now and go back to the drawing board and certainly look at Route 60, the corridor of Route 60, but exclude the residential, the current residential area of Page Road. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Anyone else wish to address the board tonight? We will be having a second public hearing after our business. So if you have something to say that occurs to you, feel free to speak to us again. Given that this meeting is about the comprehensive plan, it's not about apartments as I explained, I'm going to recess this meeting to the conference room where we normally do our workshops, which is just next door. So if you wish to stay for the workshop on the comprehensive plan as we get started vetting the work of the Planning Commission, you're certainly welcome. But we're now recessed for 5 minutes to move to the conference room.